there's two aspects to that. The first is the question of what did the writers originally mean in Genesis 1 when they spoke about 7 days. And I think it's pretty clear that that passage was a polemic in many ways against the thoughts of the day. And for example, in the days that the Bible was written, astrology was a dominant scientific paradigm, if you want to use that word. The academic paradigm was astrology. So people believe that the sun and the moon and the stars influence our day-to-day lives. And it's very, very striking that the sun and the moon are not created until the fourth day. You can't have a day and a night without the sun and the moon. So clearly that suggests that there's a pattern in there. There's a structure that the person is trying to say something to us. If you look at the Hebrew words for sun and moon that are used there, they're not the normal word for sun and moon, but they're greater lamp and lesser lamp. So the writer is very clearly saying these objects in the sky are created objects. They're not gods to be worshipped. They're lamps, something like what you see in the day today. And that's amazing because that is in fact a scientific prediction. That's a prediction to saying the sun and the moon are not living objects. The sun and the moon are material objects. They are lights. And today, of course, everybody thinks, at least most scientists think that, and many lay people hopefully agree, that the sun and the moon don't influence our lives. They are material objects. And that was a falsifiable prediction that was made by the early writers of Genesis, which has turned out to be true. And the reason you can see it that very clearly, the reason it was made on the fourth day was to demote them from being there on the first day. And so clearly that suggests that those 7 days were a literary device. They're a way of describing in a more powerful way the creation of the world than you could by just saying, and then this happened, and then that happened, and that happened. And so for me, growing up in Africa, in a village, I often encountered an old man who would tell me a story, and it would be in this kind of more symbolic way. And he was trying to make a much more important point than just trying to describe to me the chronology of what happened. He was trying to make a point about the deep meaning of what was going on. So that's one aspect of time. The other aspect of time is what we might call deep time. It's the idea that the world is very old. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. The universe is almost 14 billion years old. And for many people, that seems strange. Why did God take so long to create the Earth? But it's not that strange because we're all used to the idea of the universe being very large. There's 100 billion stars in our galaxies, and there's probably 100 billion galaxies in the universe, if not more. And so we see in the size of the universe something about the glory of God. And so why should there not also be deep time? Why should that not be just in a different dimension, a time dimension, something about the majesty and the glory of God? So that's how I think that's a different way of thinking about time. So I think that the Genesis story is describing deep truths, not in a journalistic fashion, but in a much deeper and more powerful way about the way that God created the world, that God sustains the world, and that He's involved in every aspect of the world. But it's not giving us a journalistic account like Luke is, of this is the order in which things happen, and this is exactly what was said by whom.